Who is lying to themselves? The satin of my gown rustles, a sound too loud in the sudden silence around me. I feel the heat of 100 pairs of eyes as I force a smile onto my face, a mask of polite indifference I have perfected over 4 long seasons. Lord Ashford, a man whose consequence is measured only by the sharpness of his tongue, lets his gaze drop pointedly to my hands. "My dear Miss Thornwick," he says, his voice carrying with practiced ease, "one must commend your frugality. Such durable gloves." His words are a silken poison, and around us, whispers like vipers slither through the glittering ballroom of Pembroke House. I can almost taste the humiliation, a bitter metallic tang on my tongue. They all see me as I am, 26, quite upon the shelf, a spinster in a slightly less than fashionable gown of deep green. Ruined, not by scandal, but by the quiet, relentless erosion of time and hope. But they do not know what I am holding. They do not see the crisp fold of paper hidden within my simple reticule, the weight of the ink on the page that feels heavier than all the diamonds in this room. It is an offer, a secret door out of this gilded cage, a choice that could turn everything on its head. My fingers tighten on the worn silk of the bag, the letter a silent promise against my palm. My sister Pphanie would be horrified. She stands across the room, a vision in celestial blue, her own gloves of the finest French kid, a gift from our mother for this, the unofficial opening of the season. At 4 years my junior, she is the family's great hope, a diamond of the first water, flawless in her beauty and accomplishments. She is also the architect of my solitude. Suitor after suitor, drawn by my passable looks and gentle temperament, has called upon our house in Portman Square, only to retreat in bewildering haste after a single conversation with my brilliant, critical sister. Pphanie does not mean to be cruel. She simply believes the world is a manuscript requiring her extensive correction, and she is the only qualified editor. I watch her now as she holds court, her laughter like the ringing of fine crystal. She is speaking with a trio of admirers, and even from this distance, I can see the familiar pattern. A gentleman makes a comment on the music, and Phanie's brow furrows slightly as she offers a detailed critique of the orchestra's string section. Her knowledge is impeccable, her delivery devastating. The gentleman stammers, his confidence reduced to dust. It has always been so. My parents see her critiques as proof of a superior intellect. I see them as the reason I will likely live out my days as the finest aunt in Christendom. A new ripple of attention sweeps through the ballroom, a current strong enough to momentarily distract from both my sister's brilliance and my own quiet shame. The name is whispered from fan to fan, a low thunder that promises a storm. Lord Caspian Ravenrest. I follow the collective gaze toward the grand entrance. He is not what I had imagined from the fevered gossip. The ton spoke of his fortune, his title, his military honors. They did not speak of the stillness in his posture, the unnerving intelligence in his gray eyes as he surveys the room, not as a participant, but as a commander assessing the terrain. He is 30 years of age, they say, and has finally decided to take a wife. My mother, Lady Margaret, nearly vibrates with ambition. She has spoken of nothing else for weeks. "A Viscount, Saraphina, for our Pphanie," she declared, as if the match were already made. Now she moves with the strategic grace of a general, guiding Pphanie through the crowd, her path aimed directly at Lord Caspian's observation post near the refreshment tables. I am, as always, expected to follow, a lady-in-waiting to the Queen. As they approach, I see Lord Caspian's sister, Lady Charlotte Peaton, perform the introductions. He bows with military precision, and then, as he straightens, his eyes scan past Phanie's radiant face for a fraction of a second. They find me. Not me, precisely, but my reflection in the enormous gilded mirror that hangs on the far wall. Our gazes lock in the glass for a fleeting, disorienting moment, a ghost of an acknowledgement, before he turns his full attention back to my sister. My heart gives a strange, unfamiliar lurch. It was nothing, a trick of the candlelight on the glass. Hint, yet I saw it. He saw me, the quiet shadow before he saw the sun. Their conversation begins and I watch, fascinated. Pphanie launches her usual campaign, dissecting his fortune, his politics, his estates, all under the guise of polite inquiry. But Lord Caspian does not stammer. He does not retreat. He answers her questions with a calm, analytical detachment that seems to match her own, though his is without the sharp, critical edge. He is a fortress, and her arrows, for the first time, seem to fall short of their mark. When she critiques his reference to a poet, not only completing the quotation, but offering a scathing review of the author's lesser works, I feel the familiar heat of mortification rise in my cheeks. This is the moment they always flee. But Lord Caspian merely inclines his head, a thoughtful expression on his face. An interesting perspective, Miss Thornwick, is all he says. 15. What does he truly see? Saraphina, do come and join us, my mother calls, her voice sharp with the command that I must play my part. I am the canvas upon which Phanie's brilliance is painted. My quiet propriety is meant to highlight her vivacious spirit. I step forward, curtsying as Lord Caspian's gaze turns to me. It is direct, and I feel strangely exposed under its scrutiny, as if he can see past the forced smile and the worn gloves to the weary resignation beneath. Your sister mentioned you have an interest in translations, Miss Saraphina, he says. His voice is lower than I expected, a calm baritone that cuts through the ballroom's din. I am so startled I almost falter. How could he know? I had mentioned it only in a quiet corner to an elderly gentleman an hour ago, a brief discussion of scholarly pursuits. He has been observing, listening, not just to the loudest voice in the room, but to the whispers as well. Yes, my lord, it is a private hobby. I find the challenge of conveying precise meaning from one language to another quite rewarding. A difficult art, he says, and there is genuine respect in his tone. It requires not just knowledge, but empathy, the ability to understand an author's true intent. He is looking at me, but I feel his words are a subtle commentary on the conversation that has just passed. Pphanie, who has no patience for any intent but her own, shifts beside me. It is a tedious occupation for a lady, she declares, waving a dismissive hand. Far too much dust and ink. I prefer the living arts. I brace myself for the familiar sting, but before it can land, Lord Caspian intervenes. And yet, he says, his eyes still on me, without the quiet work of translators, the living arts would have a much poorer library to draw from. He gives me a small, almost imperceptible nod. It is a shield, a validation so unexpected, I feel a warmth spread through my chest, chasing away the chill of Lord Ashford's earlier insult. It is a flicker of something I haven't allowed myself to feel in years, a spark of connection, of being truly seen. But then my fingers brush against my reticule, and the crisp edge of the letter inside is a sharp reminder of reality. The letter offers me a different life, one of quiet scholarship and independence, far from the London marriage mart. It is a respectable, sensible path, a safe one. It is the path I have chosen, or had chosen until this moment. I clutch the small silk bag, the two futures it represents suddenly at war within me. Before this night is over, a choice will be made, and a truth I have long buried will have to be spoken. Promise, the truth of what I want, not just what I am willing to accept. The moment hangs in the air, fragile as spun glass. Pphanie stares, her perfect Cupid's bow mouth slightly agape, an expression of sheer astonishment that is, for once, entirely genuine. My mother's fan stills its frantic fluttering, her eyes darting between Lord Caspian and me, as if trying to solve a sudden, impossible equation. I am the known variable, the constant, the quiet background. His attention is the anomaly that has broken the formula. A library is the soul of a house, Lord Caspian continues, his gaze unwavering. He has not released me, not yet. He holds me in this strange, warm spotlight of his consideration. A soul requires a devoted keeper. He is not just defending my hobby, he is naming my worth in a language I understand. I feel a blush creep up my neck, a traitorous heat that has nothing to do with shame and everything to do with a kind of bewildered gratitude. I manage a small, shaky smile. I believe so, my lord. The orchestra, as if on cue, strikes the opening chords of a waltz. It is the moment of decision when gentlemen claim their partners. I expect him to turn to Pphanie, to fulfill the unspoken contract of the evening. My mother certainly expects it. She gently nudges my sister forward, a subtle but clear command. But Lord Caspian does not look at Pphanie. He looks at me. With a grace that is both startling and utterly assured, he extends his hand. Not his gloved hand, but his bare one, a gesture of striking directness. "Miss Saraphina," he says, his voice a low command that is somehow also a question. "Would you grant me the honor of this dance?" A collective, indrawn breath seems to ripple through our small circle. To dance with the elder, overlooked sister first is not merely a breach of etiquette. It is a declaration. Of what, I cannot be certain. Phanie's beautiful face clouds over with a storm of confusion and wounded pride. My mother looks as though she might faint, but I am looking at his hand, a strong, capable hand that has likely held the reins of a war horse in the hilt of a sword, and now it is offered to me. For the first time in 4 seasons, a gentleman is not asking me to dance out of pity or obligation, but out of what appears to be genuine interest. The letter in my reticule seems to grow cold against my hip. That letter represents a retreat, a surrender to the life everyone expects from me. This hand, this moment, is a battle I never thought I would be asked to fight. "I would be honored, my lord," I whisper, and place my worn glove in his palm. His grip is firm, secure. He leads me onto the floor, and the whispers that had been vipers now become a roaring tide at my back. I can feel the weight of their judgment, the sting of their assumptions. I see Lord Ashford watching, a cruel, knowing smirk playing on his lips as he murmurs to his companion. The desperate spinster ensnares the Viscount. The thought is so clear, I almost believe he shouted it. This is the misdirect, the story they will all tell themselves. That I am a conniving, pathetic creature, poaching my own sister's prize. But as Lord Caspian turns me into the rhythm of the waltz, the rest of the room seems to fade into a blur of candlelight and color. He is an excellent dancer, leading with an economy of movement that speaks of discipline and strength. We move as one, a silent alliance against the watching eyes of the ton. "You seem troubled, Miss Saraphina," he says, his voice pitched for my ears alone. "I am unused to being the subject of such intense speculation, my lord." "Speculation is the currency of this world," he replies, his expression unreadable. "It is best to ignore it. Tell me of your translations. What authors do you favor?" And so, as we spin beneath the magnificent chandeliers, I speak of my work. I tell him of the French agricultural treatises I am rendering into English, practical texts on crop rotation and soil management. I speak of the challenge of finding the right English word for a specific farming tool, the satisfaction of making complex ideas clear and accessible. I confess that I hope one day to see them published, perhaps under a masculine name, so that the knowledge might benefit English landowners. He listens. He does not interrupt, does not correct, does not offer condescending praise. He asks intelligent questions about drainage techniques on his own estates, about the merits of a particular theory I mention. It is not a conversation between a gentleman and a lady, it is a meeting of 2 minds. For the length of one waltz, I am not a spinster or a sister or a social failure. I am simply myself, and for the first time, that feels like it is more than enough. "You possess a practical mind, Miss Saraphina," he observes as the music draws to a close. "It is a rare and valuable quality." He escorts me back to my family, where the atmosphere is thick with unspoken recriminations. My mother's smile is brittle. Phanie's is entirely absent. He bows to me, his eyes holding mine for a moment longer than is strictly proper. "Thank you for the dance," he says. Then he turns, offers a polite nod to my mother and sister, and walks away, leaving a battlefield in his wake. The rest of the evening is an exercise in endurance. My mother is furious, Pphanie is wounded and silent, and I am a strange mix of exhilarated and terrified. Lord Caspian does not approach us again, though I feel his gaze on me several times from across the room. He has lit a fire, and now I am left to contend with the blaze. When we finally return to Portman Square, the silence in the carriage is heavier than any argument. As I climb the stairs to my room, my mother's voice stops me. "Saraphina," she says, her tone cold with disappointment, "I do not know what game you think you are playing, but you will stop it. Lord Caspian is meant for your sister. Do not allow your desperation to ruin her chances and embarrass this family." Her words are a slap, sharp and stinging. Desperation. Is that what he saw? Is that what everyone saw? The warmth of our dance evaporates, leaving behind the familiar chill of humiliation. I close the door to my bedchamber, my hands trembling. The room feels like a cage, the tasteful furnishings a testament to a life of quiet containment. I sink onto the edge of my bed, my reflection in the cheval mirror, a pale, haunted stranger in green silk. I see the worn gloves still on my hands, a symbol of my modest, careful existence. Lord Ashford was right. My mother was right. I am a woman of durable, frugal things, not a woman for whom viscounts defy convention. My fingers find the clasp of my reticule. I pull out the letter, the paper cool and smooth against my skin. The wax seal, from a respected publisher of scholarly works in Bath, was broken with trembling hope only 2 days ago. I unfold it, my eyes scanning the familiar, neat script. It is not an offer of marriage, but of something far more attainable, a life. In light of the quality of the sample translations you provided, it reads, we would be pleased to offer you a position as a staff translator and editor. The work would be demanding, but it would come with a modest salary and respectable lodgings. A quiet life of scholarly purpose awaits you in Bath, should you choose to accept it. A quiet life, a purposeful life, an independent life. It is everything I thought I wanted. No more marriage marts, no more whispers, no more being the backdrop for my sister's brilliance. It is a safe harbor, a dignified retreat. It is the end of hope, but also the end of pain. I look from the letter in my hand to my reflection in the mirror. I see the woman who could live that quiet life in Bath, respectable and alone. Then superimposed over her image, I remember the feeling of Lord Caspian's hand in mine, the intent look in his gray eyes, the startling, breathtaking possibility that I had been wrong about everything, that I was not a problem to be solved, but a soul to be seen. The letter promises a world without risk, but for the first time, a question burns within me, fierce and terrifying. What if the greatest risk is in never daring to hope for more? The music from a distant party drifts through my open window, a faint echo of the waltz we shared. I fold the letter, its crisp edges a sharp line between two possible futures. Before dawn, a choice must be made. A truth I have long buried must be faced. The truth of what I truly want, not just what I have been told I must accept. My mother's words are a slap, sharp and stinging. Desperation. Is that what he saw? Is that what everyone saw? The warmth of our dance evaporates, leaving behind the familiar chill of humiliation. I close the door to my bedchamber, my hands trembling. The room feels like a cage, the tasteful furnishings a testament to a life of quiet containment. I sink onto the edge of my bed, my reflection in the cheval mirror a pale, haunted stranger in green silk. I see the worn gloves still on my hands, a symbol of my modest, careful existence. Lord Ashford was right. My mother was right. I am a woman of durable, frugal things, not a woman for whom viscounts defy convention. My fingers find the clasp of my reticule. I pull out the letter, the paper cool and smooth against my skin. The wax seal from a respected publisher of scholarly works in Bath was broken with trembling hope only 2 days ago. I unfold it, my eyes scanning the familiar, neat script. It is not an offer of marriage, but of something far more attainable, a life. In light of the quality of the sample translations you provided, it reads, we would be pleased to offer you a position as a staff translator and editor. The work would be demanding, but it would come with a modest salary and respectable lodgings. A quiet life of scholarly purpose awaits you in Bath, should you choose to accept it. A quiet life, a purposeful life, an independent life. It is everything I thought I wanted. No more marriage marts, no more whispers, no more being the backdrop for my sister's brilliance. It is a safe harbor, a dignified retreat. It is the end of hope, but also the end of pain. I look from the letter in my hand to my reflection in the mirror. I see the woman who could live that quiet life in Bath, respectable and alone. Then superimposed over her image, I remember the feeling of Lord Caspian's hand in mine, the intent look in his gray eyes, the startling, breathtaking possibility that I had been wrong about everything, that I was not a problem to be solved, but a soul to be seen. The letter promises a world without risk, but for the first time, a question burns within me, fierce and terrifying. What if the greatest risk is in never daring to hope for more? The music from a distant party drifts through my open window, a faint echo of the waltz we shared. I fold the letter, its crisp edges a sharp line between two possible futures. Before dawn, a choice must be made. A truth I have long buried must be faced. The truth of what I truly want, not just what I have been told I must accept. Sleep is a country I cannot find. I sit by the window, the letter resting on my lap, watching the London sky soften from bruised purple to the pale gray of dawn. The city is a sleeping beast, its fashionable heart for a few hours still. In the quiet, I can think. The woman in Bath would be Miss Thornwick, the scholar. She would be respected for her mind. She would earn her own bread, choose her own books, and answer to no one. She would be free from the daily humiliations, the sidelong glances, the weight of my mother's ambition, and my sister's thoughtless cruelty. She would be safe, and she would be utterly, profoundly alone. Her heart would be a well-tended but fallow garden, never knowing the terror or the glory of a single, wild bloom. The woman who stays in London, what of her? She risks everything. She risks the final, crushing humiliation of being wrong. She risks Lord Caspian's attention being nothing more than a passing whim, a moment of contrariness. She risked becoming a laughingstock, the spinster who foolishly reached for a star and fell. She risked the full force of her family's disappointment, a storm I have spent my entire life trying to navigate. But she also risks happiness, a wild, improbable, terrifying happiness. She risks a life with a man who listened when she spoke of soil and syntax, who saw worth in her quiet work, who met her gaze in a crowded room and made her feel as though she were the only one there. 30. What is truth worth? My mother accused me of playing a game. Perhaps she is right, but the game I was playing was one of surrender. The letter in my hand is my white flag. To stay, to hope, is to declare war. Not on my sister, not on my family, but on the fate everyone has written for me. A choice. For so long I believed I had none. Now I see I have two. One is a safe path down a gentle slope into quiet obscurity. The other is a climb up a treacherous cliff face with no guarantee of a foothold, for a chance at the sun. With a resolve that feels foreign and fragile, I rise from my chair. I do not tear the letter. That would be an act of foolish, romantic passion. I am, as Lord Caspian noted, a practical woman. Instead, I walk to my writing desk and unlock a small inlaid box where I keep my mother's few pieces of jewelry and my father's letters from his university days. I place the publisher's offer inside, a secret door left unlocked. It is my retreat, not my surrender. Then I close the lid and turn the key. The click is a sound of finality and of beginning. I will stay. I will face the storm. The atmosphere at breakfast is a new circle of hell. The air is so thick with unspoken resentment, I can barely breathe it. My father, bless his gentle heart, is oblivious, chattering about a new species of fern he read about. My mother presides over the teapot with the icy authority of a hanging judge, her silence more damning than any tirade. Pphanie is the most changed. The radiant confidence that is her armor has been pierced. She looks brittle. There are faint mauve shadows beneath her perfect blue eyes. She does not look at me. When our footman Thomas offers her the toast, she snaps at him for placing it too close to her plate. "Must everything be done with such oafish incompetence?" she hisses. Thomas flinches, his sympathetic eyes finding mine for a half second before he retreats. "Pphanie, the staff are not to blame for your ill humor," I say softly, my voice barely a whisper. Her head snaps up, and for the first time her eyes meet mine. They are not just angry, they are filled with a deep, bewildering pain. "And what would you know of it?" she asks, her voice low and trembling with fury. "You who have spent 4 seasons smiling your placid, patient smile, while I have fought to keep this family from ruin. Did you think a viscount would look twice at the Thornwicks without a diamond to draw his eye? I have been that diamond. I have polished myself, perfected myself, endured the fawning of fools and the tediousness of society, all for us. And you, in one evening, With your dusty books and your worn gloves, you seek to undo it all. The accusation hangs in the air, stunning me into silence. She does not see her own critiques as a flaw. She sees them as a weapon she has wielded on our family's behalf, a standard of excellence meant to elevate us. In her mind, her cruelty has been a form of sacrifice, and my quiet endurance has not been sisterly support, but a kind of passive betrayal. She believes I have been hiding, waiting for her to build the empire so that I might steal the throne. That is not true, I manage, my throat tight. I have never wished you anything but happiness. Then you will put an end to this fantasy, she says, her voice regaining its sharp, cutting edge. You will make it clear to Lord Caspian that he has made an error. A gentleman of his standing cannot be seen to trifle with the affections of two sisters. It will ruin us all. She pushes her chair back, the scrape of wood on the floor a shriek of protest. I feel a headache coming on. I will be in my room. She sweeps out, leaving a vortex of misery in her wake. My mother finally speaks, her voice thin and cold as ice. She is right, Saraphina. You must correct this, for the good of the family. Before I can answer, before I can find the words to explain the impossible hope that has taken root in my heart, Thomas re-enters the room, his expression a mixture of awe and terror. He clears his throat, his gaze fixed somewhere above my father's head. My lady, he announces, his voice cracking on the title. Lord Caspian Ravenrest, to call. The teapot in my mother's hand clatters against its saucer. The room goes utterly, deathly still, a name half spoken, a future held in the balance. The battle has come to my door. The name hangs in the air, a lit fuse. Lord Caspian Ravenrest, to call. My mother's hand, which had been frozen above the silver teapot, now sets it down with a sharp crack of porcelain on porcelain. Her face is a mask of warring emotions. The triumph of securing a viscount's call, the fury that he has come for the wrong daughter, and the dawning panic of a general whose battle plan has just been shredded by an unforeseen maneuver. Sir Reginald looks up from his paper, blinking in mild confusion, as if a unicorn has just been announced. Show him into the drawing room, Thomas, my mother says, her voice regaining a sliver of its usual command, though it is thin and brittle. Tell his lordship we will be with him presently. Thomas bows, his relief at escaping the room palpable, and retreats. My mother turns to me, her eyes glacial. You will go to your room, Saraphina. I will receive him with Pphanie. This misunderstanding must be rectified immediately. A week ago, even a day ago, I would have obeyed. I would have slipped away, the dutiful shadow, leaving the stage clear for the star. But the woman who sat by the window at dawn, who chose the treacherous cliff face over the gentle slope, does not retreat. No, Mama, I say. My voice is quiet, but it does not tremble. It is the calmest thing in the room. He has come to call upon the family. I am part of this family. I will be there. For a moment, I think she might strike me. Her lips press into a white, bloodless line. You will ruin us, she whispers, the words laden with a lifetime of disappointment. Or perhaps, my father interjects, peering at us over his spectacles with sudden, surprising clarity. You will allow the girl to speak for herself. The Viscount asked for her to dance, did he not? Let us not be hasty, my dear. He has seen more than I gave him credit for. His gentle intervention gives me the shield I need. My mother says nothing more, but sweeps from the room, her spine rigid with indignation. I know she is going to Phanie's chambers, to drag her down to the drawing room, to present the united front of her ambition. I take a deep breath, smoothing the simple gray muslin of my morning dress, and follow my father. My heart is a frantic drum against my ribs, but my steps are steady. The battle has begun. Lord Caspian is standing by the mantelpiece examining a miniature of my great-aunt. He turns as we enter, and the room seems to shrink, his presence filling it completely. His morning coat is perfectly tailored, the dark blue cloth emphasizing the breadth of his shoulders. But it is his eyes that command attention. They are calm, analytical, and fixed entirely on me. He bows to my father, then to me. Sir Reginald, Miss Saraphina, thank you for receiving me. The honor is ours, my lord, my father says, gesturing toward a chair. Lord Caspian remains standing. I hope my early call is not an inconvenience. I came with a specific purpose, and I did not wish to delay. His gaze does not waver from mine. I wish to inquire after your health, Miss Saraphina, after the exertions of last night's ball. It is a simple, polite inquiry, yet it is so pointedly directed at me that it serves as another declaration. He is not here for Pphanie. He is not here for the family. He is here for me. Before I can answer, my mother sweeps into the room, her face flushed. Pphanie is not with her. Lord Caspian, how good of you to call, she says, her voice a symphony of forced cordiality. Pphanie is suffering from a slight headache this morning, the consequence of such a late evening. She will be desolate to have missed you. It is a lie, and we all know it. Pphanie is not suffering from a headache. She is suffering from a wound to her pride, and she has refused to play a part in my mother's charade. I am sorry to hear it, Lord Caspian says smoothly, though his eyes betray a flicker of understanding. In that case, perhaps I might impose upon you further. I had hoped to continue my conversation with Miss Saraphina on the subject of agricultural improvements. It is a topic of great interest to me. He pauses, his next words delivered with the precision of a master strategist. Perhaps, if it is not too forward, Miss Saraphina might grant me a brief tour of your garden. The morning air might be clarifying. 45. What is his true objective? My mother's composure finally cracks. A walk in the garden, unchaperoned? It is a step far beyond a formal morning call. It is a signal of serious intent. My lord, I am not certain that would be proper. Nonsense, Margaret, my father says, coming to my rescue once more. It is our own garden, perfectly proper. Saraphina knows the name of every plant back there. Taught her myself. You will find her an excellent guide, my lord. My mother is trapped. To refuse now would be a direct and unforgivable insult. She gives a tight, angry nod, her expression making it clear that there will be a reckoning for this later. I would be delighted, my lord, if I say, my voice steadier than I feel. He offers me his arm, and the warmth of his touch through the thin sleeve of my dress is a steadying anchor in the storm of my mother's disapproval. We walk through the French doors at the back of the drawing room and step into the small walled garden. It is my sanctuary, a place of quiet order and predictable growth. But today it feels like a new world, charged with possibility. The early morning sun has burned off the last of the mist, and the scent of damp earth and late-blooming roses hangs in the air. For a few moments we walk in silence along the narrow gravel path. He does not release my arm. Your family does not approve, he states, not as a question, but as a fact he has observed and logged. I choose my words with the care of a translator. My mother has long-held ambitions for my sister. Your attention to me has disrupted her campaign. A faint smile touches his lips. I have some experience with disrupting enemy campaigns. It was never my intention, however, to declare war on your mother. He stops by a stone bench nestled under a climbing rose, its pale pink blooms just beginning to fade. He turns to face me, finally releasing my arm but holding my gaze. Miss Saraphina, I am a direct man. I find the feints and maneuvers of society tiresome. Last night I met a woman of intelligence, grace, and a quiet strength I find admirable. That woman was you. My breath catches in my throat. It is too much, too soon. It feels like a dream from which I will be cruelly awakened. My lord, you must know my position. I am on the shelf. My prospects are considered negligible. I do not care a whit for the considerations of others, he says, his voice low and intense. I am seeking a wife, a partner, a viscountess to manage my household and stand by my side. I require a woman of character and intellect, not a beautiful ornament who views the world as a litany of failures. The echo of Phanie's breakfast tirade is so clear in his words that I flinch. He sees it all so clearly. He sees her, and he sees me. The life you speak of, I begin, my voice barely a whisper. It is not a life I ever allowed myself to imagine. Then perhaps it is time you began, he says gently. He takes a step closer, and the space between us feels electric. Saraphina, may I call you Saraphina? I would be honored if you would allow me to court you, properly, to prove to you and to your family that my intentions are both serious and honorable. He is asking for permission to fight for me, He is offering me the one thing I have never had, a champion. The word is a prayer in my mind. Yes, but before I can speak it, before I can give voice to the hope that is blooming so violently in my chest, a shadow falls across the gravel path. Well, well, a secret tryst among the roses. How very poetic. We both turn. Lord Ashford stands at the garden's edge, framed by the open French doors. He must have been shown into the drawing room while we were outside. A slow, malicious smile spreads across his face. His eyes travel from Lord Caspian's serious expression to my own flushed cheeks, and then pointedly to the small space between us. It is an entirely innocent scene, yet in his gaze it becomes something sordid, something clandestine. Ashford, Lord Caspian says, his voice flat and cold. All warmth has vanished, replaced by the steel of a commander facing an enemy. You are intruding. Am I? Lord Ashford replies, his tone dripping with false innocence. He takes a leisurely step into the garden. I came to pay my respects to the family. Imagine my surprise to find the Viscount has spirited away the elder Miss Thornwick for a private audience. After so pointedly ignoring her acclaimed sister last night, society will find it most intriguing. The quiet little mouse, it seems, has sharp claws after all. The insult is aimed at me, but its poison is meant to splash onto Lord Caspian. To be seen courting one sister immediately after being expected to pursue the other is a breach of decorum. To be discovered in a private garden, seemingly unchaperoned, could twist that breach into a scandal. Lord Ashford has been handed a weapon, and his eyes glitter with the pleasure he will take in using it. He will paint me as a desperate, scheming spinster, and Lord Caspian as a fickle nobleman caught in my trap. He will destroy us both, for the simple sport of it. I feel the blood drain from my face. My mother's words ring in my ears. You will ruin us. The treacherous cliff face I had resolved to climb has just crumbled beneath my feet. I look at Lord Caspian, and in his grim, unyielding expression, I see the truth. The battle is no longer a private affair of the heart. It is about to become a very public war, and my name, my honor, will be the first casualty. My blood runs cold, a frozen river in my veins. Lord Ashford's words are a cage, snapping shut around me. The garden, which moments before had felt like the beginning of a world, now feels like a stage for my execution. Every rose seems to have a thorn aimed directly at my heart. I am the mouse and he is the cat, toying with me before the final, fatal pounce. My mother was right. I have ruined everything, but Lord Caspian does not move. He does not flinch. He simply turns his head slightly, his profile sharp and unyielding against the morning light. Your presence here is an error, Ashford, he says, his voice quiet, yet carrying the unmistakable weight of command. One you will correct, immediately. Lord Ashford gives a short, ugly laugh. I am merely a guest in this house, Ravenrest, same as you, though my purpose is perhaps more transparent. He lets his gaze slide over me again, a physical touch that makes my skin crawl. I came to offer my condolences to Miss Pphanie on her indisposition. It seems I find the cause of it. This is his art, the veiled accusation, the poison slipped into a porcelain cup of civility. He has named me the source of my sister's pain, the usurper, the thief. Before the shame can swallow me whole, Lord Caspian takes a single, deliberate step, placing himself slightly in front of me. It is a subtle movement, a shield of flesh and bone and honor. What you have found, Ashford, he says, his voice dropping to a dangerously low pitch, is a gentleman in conversation with a lady. A conversation you have interrupted with the grace of a charging boar. Since you are so concerned with transparency, allow me to be clear. My purpose here is to request Sir Reginald's permission to formally court his daughter, Miss Saraphina Thornwick. The words, spoken so plainly, so devoid of artifice, are a thunderclap in the quiet garden. They are not a defense, they are an attack. He has taken Ashford's flimsy, malicious insinuation and shattered it with the force of an undeniable truth. He has not only acknowledged his intentions, he has declared them, owned them, and in doing so, stripped Ashford of his power. Lord Ashford's smirk falters. The hunter has become the fool. To continue his insinuations now would be to call a viscount a liar to his face, a risk not even he is willing to take. He is left sputtering, his weapon of gossip rendered useless. To court her? Well, that is most unexpected. Only to those who value surface over substance, Lord Caspian says, his dismissal absolute. Now, if you will excuse us, you have delayed me from speaking with her father. He offers me his arm again, his expression unreadable, but his message clear. Stand with me. My hand trembles as I place it on his sleeve. My mind is a whirlwind, but my body moves, following his lead. We walk past Lord Ashford, who stands frozen among the roses, his face a mask of thwarted malice. He looks small and insignificant, a shadow in the morning sun. We re-enter the drawing room, a silent, formidable pair. My father is still there, looking up with concern. My mother has returned, her face pale. Lord Ashford, recovering himself, follows us in, a spectator determined not to miss the final act of the drama he instigated. Lord Caspian does not wait for pleasantries. He walks to the center of the room and turns to face my father, drawing me gently to his side. His hand is a warm, steady pressure on my arm. Sir Reginald, he begins, his voice clear and resonant, filling the tense silence. I apologize for the unseemly interruption to our visit. As I was just explaining to Miss Saraphina, and as Lord Ashford's curiosity has now made a matter of public record, I have come here today with a singular and honorable purpose. My mother makes a small choked sound. My father rises slowly from his chair, his gaze moving from Lord Caspian's resolute face to my own. He is searching for my answer, for my truth in all of this. I meet his eyes and give him the smallest, almost imperceptible nod. This is real. This is my choice. I have had the honor of making the acquaintance of both your daughters, Lord Caspian continues. Both are remarkable women. But it is in Miss Saraphina that I have found the qualities I most admire and seek in a wife. I have found an intelligence that is matched by her kindness, a strength of character that is tempered by her grace, and a heart that is both loyal and true. Therefore, Sir Reginald, I formally request your permission to begin a courtship with your elder daughter, with the intention of asking for her hand in marriage. The world seems to tilt on its axis. Marriage, he said the word, not in the hushed privacy of a garden, but here, in the full light of day, before my family and before our enemy. He has taken the whispers Lord Ashford intended to sow and turned them into a public proclamation. He has not just shielded me from scandal. He has offered me a future, wrapped in the unimpeachable armor of his name and his honor. My father is speechless for a moment, his kind face a study in astonishment and dawning pleasure. He looks at me, his eyes shining, and a slow, proud smile spreads across his face. My lord, he says, his voice thick with emotion, my daughter has long been the quiet heart of this family. To know that a man of your standing sees her worth, it is more than a father could hope for. You have my permission, you have my blessing. My mother sinks into a nearby chair, her fan fluttering uselessly in her hand. Her campaign is in ruins, but a viscount has just declared for a Thornwick. I cannot read the expression on her face. It is a maelstrom of shock, fury, and bewildered calculation. And then I see her, standing in the doorway, a ghost in a pale blue dressing gown. Pphanie. She must have heard his voice, the raised tones of confrontation. Her face is ashen, her blue eyes wide with a pain so profound it feels like a physical blow. She has heard it all. She has witnessed the complete and total demolition of her world. Her gaze meets mine across the room, and in it, I see not just the loss of a suitor, but the shattering of a purpose. She has been the diamond, the weapon, the sacrifice, and it was all for nothing. Lord Caspian, seeing my focus shift, turns his head. He sees my sister, and a flicker of something, compassion perhaps, or regret for the necessary cruelty of his choice, crosses his face. Pphanie says nothing. She simply looks at me, a long, unblinking stare that holds a universe of unspoken things. Then with a quiet rustle of silk, she turns and is gone. Lord Ashford, seeing his gambit has not only failed, but backfired spectacularly, offers a hasty mumbled excuse, and takes his leave, his retreat as undignified as his attack was malicious. The battle is over. The victory is ours, but the cost is only just beginning to be counted. Lord Caspian stays only a few moments longer, long enough to thank my father and to press my hand with a warmth that speaks volumes. "I will call again tomorrow, Saraphina," he says, his voice low and for my ears alone. "Be strong." Then he too is gone. I am left in the drawing room with my parents. The silence is deafening. "Well," my father says, breaking the spell with a sound that is half chuckle, half sob of relief, "it seems we have a great deal to prepare for." He comes to me and kisses my forehead. "I am proud of you, my dear, more than you know." He senses, with his quiet wisdom, that my mother and I need a moment, and he retreats to his study, leaving us alone. My mother has not moved. She stares at the empty space where Lord Caspian stood, her fan still in her hand. I wait for the storm to break, for the accusations and the recriminations. When she finally speaks, her voice is not angry. It is hollow, emptied of all its fire. "All these years," she says, her gaze distant, fixed on the past. "All my planning. I pushed her, Saraphina. I honed her wit until it was a blade, because I believed it was the only way to arm her. To arm us. Our name is respectable, but our fortune is not. I thought her brilliance was our only currency." She turns to look at me, and for the first time, I do not see a general or a judge. I see a woman who is afraid. "He chose you," she says, the words a whisper of pure disbelief. "He chose the quiet heart, not the sharp blade." "Mama," I say, my own voice gentle. I go to her, kneeling on the floor beside her chair, and take her hand. It is cold. Phanie's brilliance is a thing to be admired, but a marriage, a life, must be built on more than that. Lord Caspian understands this. "But does Pphanie?" she asks, her eyes filling with tears. "What have I done to her?" I taught her that her value lay in her perfection, in her ability to see the flaw in everything, and now a man has come and told her that her perfection is not what he wants. 60. Will he confess? The truth of it settles over me, a heavy, sorrowful weight. Phanie's cruelty was not just a weapon, it was a shield. A way to keep the world at a distance, to control it, to prevent it from ever finding a flaw in her before she could find it in them. And Lord Caspian, with his quiet preference for kindness over criticism, has left her utterly defenseless. My own joy is a fragile, trembling thing, overshadowed by the pain of my sister. I have won a future I never dreamed of, but in doing so, I have become the agent of her deepest wound. "I will go to her," I say, rising to my feet. My mother clutches my hand. "Be careful, Saraphina. A blade that has lost its purpose is a dangerous thing." I nod, understanding her warning. The drawing room was Lord Caspian's battlefield. My sister's bedchamber will be mine. I must face her, not as a victor, but as a sister. I must try to translate the language of this new world for her, a world where worth is not a performance, but a quiet, steady state of being. And I do not know if she will have the empathy to understand it. The hallway to Phanie's room felt longer than it ever had before. Her door was a lacquered white panel, flawless and imposing. Mine, further down the passage, was simple oak, its grain worn smooth by the years. We were, and had always been, two different countries separated by a narrow corridor. I paused before her door, my hand hovering over the cool brass handle. My mother's warning echoed in my mind. A blade that has lost its purpose is a dangerous thing. But Pphanie was not just a blade. She was my sister, and I could not step into the sunlight of my own future without first walking through the darkness of her pain. I knocked softly. There was no answer. Taking a steadying breath, I turned the handle and pushed the door open. Her room was a masterpiece of cool, calculated beauty, shades of silver blue and cream, silks and velvets arranged with geometric precision. It was a room designed to be admired, not lived in, a room as perfect and as cold as a statue. She was not weeping. Pphanie would never allow herself the disfigurement of tears. She was sitting before her ornate vanity, a silver-backed brush held motionless in her hand, staring at the perfect, miserable stranger in the glass. Her golden hair was unbound, cascading over the shoulders of her dressing gown like a silken shroud. The mirror reflected the room's impeccable order, and at its center, the beautiful, shattered woman who had curated it all. She did not turn as I entered. She watched me in the mirror, her reflection's eyes meeting mine. "Have you come to gloat?" she asked, her voice a low, chilling monotone. "To display your prize and survey the wreckage you have made?" I closed the door gently behind me, the soft click sealing us in together. "I have come to see my sister." A bitter, humorless smile touched her lips in the reflection. "She is not here. You are looking at a fool. A carefully polished, exquisitely dressed fool who mistook the rules of the game." She finally turned from the mirror, her real eyes raw with a pain deeper than tears, pinning me in their gaze. "So the little gray mouse has found her voice, in a Viscount's ear to whisper in. Tell me, was it my name you used to gain his notice? Or did you simply trade on the novelty of your drabness?" The words were meant to cut, and they did, but they were the desperate swings of a disarmed duelist. I would not raise a weapon in return. "His notice had nothing to do with you," I said, my voice as gentle as I could make it. "Nor did it have anything to do with me in opposition to you. He simply saw me, the me that was always there, behind your shadow." "Your shadow?" she scoffed, rising from the vanity bench and beginning to pace the length of the Aubusson carpet. She moved like a caged leopard, all coiled energy and suppressed violence. "That was not a shadow, Saraphina. That was a shield. While you were hiding in the library with your dusty books, I was on the front lines. Do you have any idea what it is like to be the hope of this family?" Her voice began to rise, cracking with the strain of a lifetime of control. Every gown, every lesson, every witty, cutting remark was a stone in the foundation of the future I was building for us. A future where we would not be pitied. A future where we would not have to count the pennies or turn a dress twice, or wear worn gloves. She spat the last words out, a venomous echo of Lord Ashford's insult. "I was building a fortress, stone by painful stone," she cried, her hands clenching into fists at her sides. "So that we would be safe, so that you would be safe, and you have just taken the keystone for a garden ornament." The raw honesty of her words struck me silent. In her own twisted, painful way, she had been fighting for me. She had seen our family's precarious position, our father's gentle impracticality, and our mother's desperate ambition, and she had appointed herself the sole architect of our salvation. Her cruelty had been her sacrifice. Her perfection had been her armor. "Oh, Pphanie," I whispered, my heart aching with a sorrow so profound it eclipsed my own joy. "Was it such a terrible burden?" My sympathy seemed to enrage her more than any argument. "It was my duty," she snapped, "and I was good at it. Men are fools, they are drawn to beauty and brilliance. I gave them both. I made myself into the most flawless diamond in London, and it was working." He was coming to me. I saw it in his eyes. Lord Caspian was to be our victory. "And what would that victory have cost you?" I asked softly. "To be his wife, but to spend your life finding fault with him? To be a viscountess who found no joy in her world, only imperfections? Would that have been happiness?" Orna 75. "What does happiness cost?" "Happiness is a luxury," she shot back. "Security is a necessity, something you have never had to concern yourself with." "That is where you are wrong," I said, taking a step toward her. "I have worried every day. I worried that my plainness would be a drain on the family. I worried that your sharpness would drive away not just my suitors, but your own. And most of all, I worried that my brilliant, beautiful sister was polishing herself into a jewel so hard and so perfect that she would one day shatter." I was standing before her now. I could see the frantic pulse in the hollow of her throat. "You are not shattered, Pphanie," I said, my voice dropping to a whisper. "You are just released. You do not have to be the family's hope anymore. You do not have to be a diamond. You can simply be a woman." For the first time, a flicker of uncertainty crossed her face. The fury in her eyes softened into a deep, bewildering confusion. "I don't know how," she whispered, the admission so quiet I almost did not hear it. It was the most honest thing I had ever heard her say. "I know," I said, "but perhaps you could learn. Perhaps we both can. I did not reach for her. The space between us was still a battlefield, littered with the wreckage of years of misunderstanding. A touch would be a trespass. Instead, I simply stood my ground, a sister, not a rival, and let my words settle in the quiet room. She stared at me for a long moment, her mind clearly racing, reevaluating every memory, every conversation, through this new, terrifying lens. She had seen the world as a manuscript to be corrected. She had never imagined that she, herself, was a text that could be revised. Finally, she turned her back on me and walked slowly, deliberately, back to her vanity. She sat down, her posture no longer rigid but weary, and looked at her reflection once more. Her eyes roamed over the perfect features, the flawless skin, the golden hair. But she was not looking with admiration. She was looking with the same surgical, critical gaze she turned on everyone else. "Leave me," she said, her voice flat, devoid of its earlier fire. Her eyes remained fixed on the mirror. "I wish to become acquainted with the fool in the glass." I understood. It was a dismissal, but it was not a rejection. It was the beginning of her own private war, a battle I could not fight for her. She was turning the blade inward, not for self-destruction, but for the first painful act of self-examination. I retreated, closing the door as softly as I had opened it. As I walked back down the hallway, I felt the first true, unburdened ray of hope, not just for me and for the future Lord Caspian had offered, but for Pphanie too. A diamond that has been shattered can be remade, and sometimes the light shines more brilliantly through the cracks. The days that followed were a strange symphony of quiet joy and cautious truce. Lord Caspian called as promised the next day, and the next. He spoke with my father of estate matters, he praised my mother's taste in porcelain, and he walked with me in the garden, our conversations weaving a tapestry of shared thoughts and future dreams. With every visit, the foundation of our understanding grew deeper, stronger. He was precisely the man I had glimpsed at the ball, honorable, intelligent, and possessed of a quiet soul that understood my own. My mother, seeing the Viscount's intentions were unshakable, began a strategic retreat from her initial disapproval, shifting her focus to the practical glories of planning a wedding that would far exceed her original ambitions. Her ambitions had been met, just not by the means she had expected. Pphanie remained in seclusion. She did not join us for Lord Caspian's visits, pleading continued ill health. I brought her meals on a tray, and we would speak, but only of small things. The weather, a new book from the lending library, the quality of the tea. The blade was sheathed. Her critiques were gone, replaced by a quiet, unnerving stillness. She was observing, listening, as if learning a new language. I knew a profound change was taking place within her, a slow, seismic shifting of her soul, and I knew it was a journey she had to make alone. The turning point came nearly a week after Lord Caspian's declaration. It arrived in the form of a calling card, delivered on a silver tray by a bemused-looking Thomas. Sir Basil Featherstone. My mother was aghast. After the scene at the Duchess's? After Phanie's reputation has been so damaged? The man must be a ghoul, come to pick at the bones of our social standing. But I suspected otherwise. Sir Basil was not a man swayed by gossip. He was a man who knew what he wanted and saw value where others saw none. Perhaps you should allow Pphanie to decide if she wishes to receive him, I suggested gently. My mother was about to refuse when a voice came from the stairs. I will see him. We all turned. Pphanie stood there, dressed not in a fragile dressing gown, but in a simple, elegant day dress of dove gray. Her hair was neatly coiled, her face pale but composed. There was a new light in her eyes, not the brilliant, competitive spark of before, but something steadier, more thoughtful. Pphanie, my dear, are you certain? My father asked, his concern evident. You do not have to. I am certain, Papa, she said, her voice calm. Show Sir Basil into the drawing room, Thomas. I will be down in a moment. She descended the stairs, and as she passed me, she paused. He is a practical man, she said, her voice low. He is not looking for a diamond. I believe he is looking for a manager for his fortune and a hostess for his table. These are skills I possess. There was no bitterness in her words, only a cool, clear-eyed assessment of her own worth, stripped of all romantic illusion. She looked at me, a direct, searching gaze. You sought a partner for your heart, Saraphina. I believe I am seeking a partner in business. Perhaps there is more than one kind of happiness to be found. It was the closest she had ever come to giving me her blessing. She went into the drawing room, and I was left with the stunning realization that my sister, in her own way, was taking control of her destiny. She was not waiting for a man to be dazzled by her. She was choosing a man whose needs aligned with her strengths. The sound of their voices from behind the closed doors was a low murmur. There were no raised tones, no sharp critiques. When Sir Basil left half an hour later, he was smiling. That evening, Pphanie announced her engagement. She did so with a quiet dignity that was more impressive than any of her former brilliance. Sir Basil, she explained, appreciated her discerning eye and her frankness. He saw her sharp mind not as a flaw, but as an asset. In the blunt, pragmatic, and entirely unromantic baronet, my sister had found someone who was not afraid of her. He did not want her to be softer or kinder. He wanted her exactly as she was. Our double wedding was the talk of the season. It was a study in contrasts. My union with Caspian was filled with a light and warmth that seemed to radiate from our shared joy. His hand in mine felt like coming home. His vows were not a social contract, but a sacred promise, whispered from my ears alone. Phanie's union with Sir Basil was an affair of magnificent, stately splendor. She was, once again, the perfect jewel, but something had changed. As she stood beside her new husband, a man twice her age but with a look of profound satisfaction on his face, her expression was not one of triumph, but of peace. She had not won the prize she thought she wanted, but she had secured a kingdom of her own making. On the evening of our wedding day, after the guests had departed and Caspian and I were preparing to leave for his country estate, Silvermere, I found Pphanie in the now quiet garden. She was standing by the same stone bench where Caspian had first declared his intentions to me. "He sees you, Saraphina," she said without turning around. "Pray ensure he continues to do so." "And Sir Basil?" I asked softly. "Does he see you?" She finally turned, and in the twilight, I saw a genuine, gentle smile grace her lips. "He sees a beautiful, intelligent woman who will run his life with ruthless efficiency," she said. "And he is grateful for it. It is in its own way a kind of love." I knew it was. A different kind, born not of poetry but of prose, but a partnership nonetheless. We stood in silence for a moment, two sisters on the precipice of our new lives, the space between us no longer a battlefield, but a bridge. "I kept the letter," I confessed quietly. "The one from the publisher in Bath." She nodded, understanding immediately. "The retreat?" "Yes." "You won't need it now," she said. It was not a question. "No," I agreed, "I will not." My life at Silvermere was more than I had ever dared to dream. It was a life of partnership in the truest sense. I rode with Caspian across the fields, discussing drainage and crop yields. I managed the great house not as a social stage, but as a warm and thriving home. I spent long, happy hours in the magnificent library, my translation work no longer a secret hobby, but a respected pursuit. My husband, my most ardent supporter. We built a life not on the shifting sands of social approval, but on the bedrock of mutual respect, shared purpose, and a deep, abiding love. The quiet heart of the family had found its own quiet kingdom, and in it I discovered that true worth is not about being seen by the world, but about being truly known by one. My happiness was a quiet, steady flame, warming every corner of my life. The children who came to bless our union inherited their father's steady character, and I hoped some of my own quiet patience. Each year, when Pphanie, Lady Featherstone, would visit, she would sweep in with a whirlwind of pronouncements on the inadequacies of our draperies or the shocking state of the local roads, but her critiques were now laced with an odd, dry affection. She and Sir Basil were a formidable pair, ruling their corner of society with an iron fist and a velvet glove, and in her own way she was content. One cool autumn afternoon, years into my marriage, I was sorting through a box of old papers in the library. I came across the letter from the publisher in Bath, the offer of a different life, tucked away in a volume of Plutarch. I unfolded it, the crisp paper a relic from another age. I remembered the desperate woman who had clutched it like a lifeline, the fear and the loneliness that had been her constant companions. Caspian came into the room, his step quiet on the thick carpet. He came up behind me and wrapped his arms around my waist, resting his chin on my shoulder. His gaze fell on the letter in my hands. "Your retreat," he said softly, his voice filled with a gentle understanding. He had known, of course. He knew everything. "My what if," I corrected, leaning back against him. "My other path." "Are you ever sorry," he asked, his lips brushing my temple, "that you chose this one?" I turned in his arms, my hands coming up to cup his face. I looked into the gray eyes that had seen me in a crowded ballroom, that had seen past the worn gloves and the quiet demeanor to the soul within. I saw in them the reflection of the woman I had become, strong, loved, and at peace. The choice had never been between a life of scholarship and a life of love. The miracle was that I had found both in one place, with one person. I smiled, a slow, sure smile of absolute gratitude. "My only regret," I whispered, "is that I did not dare to hope for it sooner." He lowered his head and kissed me, a kiss that held all the quiet conversations, all the shared laughter, all the peaceful mornings and contented evenings of our life together. It was a kiss that tasted of home. The letter lay forgotten on the table, a ghost of a future that had never been. The path I had chosen, the treacherous cliff face I had dared to climb, had led me here, to this quiet moment of perfect, sacred grace. If truth cost your name, your security, in the world you knew, would you still find the courage to speak it? The hallway to Phanie's room felt longer than it ever had before. Her door was a lacquered white panel, flawless and imposing. Mine, further down the passage, was simple oak, its grain worn smooth by the years. We were and had always been two different countries separated by a narrow corridor. I paused before her door, my hand hovering over the cool brass handle. My mother's warning echoed in my mind. A blade that has lost its purpose is a dangerous thing. But Pphanie was not just a blade. She was my sister, and I could not step into the sunlight of my own future without first walking through the darkness of her pain. I knocked softly. There was no answer. Taking a steadying breath, I turned the handle and pushed the door open. Her room was a masterpiece of cool, calculated beauty. Shades of silver blue and cream, silks and velvets arranged with geometric precision. It was a room designed to be admired, not lived in. A room as perfect and as cold as a statue. She was not weeping. Pphanie would never allow herself the disfigurement of tears. She was sitting before her ornate vanity, a silverback brush held motionless in her hand, staring at the perfect, miserable stranger in the glass. Her golden hair was unbound, cascading over the shoulders of her dressing gown like a silken shroud. The mirror reflected the room's impeccable order, and at its center, the beautiful, shattered woman who had curated it all. She did not turn as I entered. She watched me in the mirror, her reflection's eyes meeting mine. "Have you come to gloat?" she asked, her voice a low, chilling monotone. "To display your prize and survey the wreckage you have made?" I closed the door gently behind me, the soft click sealing us in together. "I have come to see my sister." A bitter, humorless smile touched her lips in the reflection. "She is not here. You are looking at a fool, a carefully polished, exquisitely dressed fool who mistook the rules of the game." She finally turned from the mirror, her real eyes raw with a pain deeper than tears, pinning me in their gaze. "So the little gray mouse has found her voice, and a Viscount's ear to whisper in. Tell me, was it my name you used to gain his notice? Or did you simply trade on the novelty of your drabness?" The words were meant to cut, and they did. But they were the desperate swings of a disarmed duelist. I would not raise a weapon in return. "His notice had nothing to do with you," I said, my voice as gentle as I could make it. "Nor did it have anything to do with me in opposition to you. He simply saw me, the me that was always there, behind your shadow." "My shadow," she scoffed, rising from the vanity bench and beginning to pace the length of the Aubusson carpet. She moved like a caged leopard, all coiled energy and suppressed violence. "That was not a shadow, Saraphina. That was a shield. While you were hiding in the library with your dusty books, I was on the front lines. Do you have any idea what it is like to be the hope of this family?" Her voice began to rise, cracking with the strain of a lifetime of control. "Every gown, Every lesson, every witty, cutting remark was a stone in the foundation of the future I was building for us. A future where we would not be pitied. A future where we would not have to count the pennies or turn a dress twice or wear worn gloves. She spat the last words out, a venomous echo of Lord Ashford's insult. I was building a fortress, stone by painful stone, she cried, her hands clenching into fists at her sides. So that we would be safe, so that you would be safe, and you have just taken the keystone for a garden ornament. The raw honesty of her words struck me silent. In her own twisted, painful way, she had been fighting for me. She had seen our family's precarious position, our father's gentle impracticality, and our mother's desperate ambition, and she had appointed herself the sole architect of our salvation. Her cruelty had been her sacrifice. Her perfection had been her armor. "Oh, Pphanie," I whispered, my heart aching with a sorrow so profound it eclipsed my own joy. Was it such a terrible burden? My sympathy seemed to enrage her more than any argument. "It was my duty," she snapped, "and I was good at it. Men are fools. They are drawn to beauty and brilliance. I gave them both. I made myself into the most flawless diamond in London, and it was working. He was coming to me. I saw it in his eyes. Lord Caspian was to be our victory. And what would that victory have cost you?" I asked softly. "To be his wife, but to spend your life finding fault with him? To be a viscountess who found no joy in her world, only imperfections? Would that have been happiness?"